The Edmonton Elks will visit the Hamilton Tiger Cats on Thursday night in a game that will see Eugene Lewis return to the lineup for the green and gold, while Scott Milanovich will helm Hamilton's offense for the first time following the departure of offensive coordinator Tommy Condell. Can the Ticats cover the 5.5-point spread against the winless Elks?
Man, I can't believe I'm about to do this, Hodge. Please, I need you to save me from myself in some way, but I don't think they can. I'm not even sure they can win this game. Yes, it's the winless Edmonton Elks, but they've got to get a win sometime. And Trey Ford came into that game last week in his first week as the starter. And, well, he didn't blow everyone's socks off. He wasn't a 300-yard passing performance with 4 touchdowns or anything like that. I think he legitimately provided a spark to that offense and gave them another facet that hopefully, with another week to develop it, they can truly exploit against what is not a very good Ticats defense. And then on the other side, Scott Milanovich is riding to the rescue, but that's a lot to ask on 1 week. And Taylor Powell has not impressed me at all in his starts. So I believe the Edmonton Elks might actually have the better quarterback in this matchup. And in a game between two extremely poor teams, I'm going to side with the better QB. And in this situation, it is Trey Ford and Edmonton.
I'm going to say something crazy, JC. Something even crazier than you. Well, maybe not that crazy, but almost as crazy as your blatantly wrong opinion about the Zach Collaros roughing the passer non-call. I'm taking the Elks to win too. I'm going to watch this video back in a week and hate myself for doing this, but I am taking the Elks. They're going to win at some point. They've done nothing but lose, but honestly, I think it's easier for them to win on the road right now than it would be for them to win at home with all the pressure of that 22-game losing streak at home. I'm taking the Elks to win despite being 5.5-point underdogs. I'm taking them. I am.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers will visit the Calgary Stampeders on Friday night, where they will look to cover a 7-point spread at McMahon Stadium. Zach Collaros hasn't practiced this week due to a neck injury, while Jake Maier hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in 3 consecutive starts. Who you got in this one?
So tell me again, how many touchdown passes does Jake Maier have in the last 3 games?
That would be 0.
And how many touchdown passes did Drew Brown throw for last week in a relief effort?
That was 4, if I'm correct.
Okay, I'm taking the Bombers. I'm taking them not just to win, but I'm taking them to cover a 7-point spread. I don't think the Calgary Stampeders are a terrible team. I like their defense. Their special teams cover units have been surprisingly bad, but kicking game is great, right, with Rene Paredes and with Cody Grace. But that offense is miserable. And if you can take away the run game, this team has nothing. Like Jake Maier has had 1 really good game in 9 outings so far this season. This team is 3-6 with good reason. I'm taking Winnipeg to win. I'm taking them to cover. And frankly, I don't care who's under center. I'm taking the Bombers.
Yeah, it's shocking to say because Collaros has been the best quarterback in the league over the last 3 years, but the drop-off from him to Drew Brown is almost nothing. Drew Brown is going to be a legitimate starter and future star in this league with one franchise or another, and he's going to get the chance potentially to audition for that role this week after blowing the socks off the Elks a week ago. I think he is going to do the same thing to the Stampeders. And if Dave Dickinson does not get more aggressive with his offense and stop being afraid of Jake Maier doing impromptu turnovers and allow him to push the ball down the field, the Stampeders aren't going to have a chance in any game against tough competition. They cannot go the dink and dunk route again. Winnipeg is going to win this by a mile. The Montreal Alouettes will visit the Ottawa Redblacks on Saturday night, where they are 2.5-point favorites, despite Cody Fajardo reportedly being a game-time decision for the second week in a row due to a shoulder injury. These two clubs met in week 1 with the Owls coming out ahead by 4 points, though that was before Dustin Crum was at the controls for Ottawa. Can the Redblacks cover the short home spread?
I loved what we saw from Dustin Crum this last week. He needed to show that he could go through more than one read. He He needed to show that he could air the ball out and be accurate with his passes, not just in short dink and dunk, but in true like intermediate routes with occasional deep shots. And he did that brilliantly, I thought, against the Toronto Argonauts. With that said, I think the Alouettes have been the most underrated team in the CFL this year. Right now, they are 5-0 against every team that is not Toronto, Winnipeg, BC, which I would call clearly the top tier of teams in the CFL. Montreal has beaten up on that second tier, including everybody else, but obviously Edmonton, who I think is clearly by themselves in the bottom tier. With Cody Fajardo, I'm taking the Owls in this game. If Cody Fajardo doesn't play, I'm very happy to take the Redblacks and get points here. Caleb Evans was exactly what I thought Caleb Evans was last week. He completed 8 passes in the win. Fortunately for the Owls, they got the ground game going with William Stanback. Even though he was out, they got it going with Joshua Antwi, who played, Walter Fletcher, who had a huge play, and Caleb Evans, who himself is a good runner, but he's not a thrower. I don't think Montreal can do enough with Caleb Evans to win a second straight game. I would take Ottawa with Evans at the control for Montreal, but I'm taking the Owls if Fajardo plays.
We are of one mind on this issue because I'm in the exact same boat. I think if Caleb Evans makes his second straight start, the Ottawa Redblacks are a much better team with Dustin Crum at the helm than the Saskatchewan Roughriders were last week, with Jake Dolegala thrust into action, and they will win this matchup. But if Cody Fajardo is back and healthy, he is the better quarterback, and he means the world to that Alouettes offense, which I think has some pretty good receivers in the likes of Austin Mack. If they have their starter back, then I'm going with the favorites in this one.
The BC Lions will visit the Saskatchewan Roughriders on Sunday night, where they are monster 9.5-point favorites on the road. Mason Fine is reportedly out for 2 to 3 weeks with a hamstring injury, leaving Jake Dolegala as the presumed starter in Saskatchewan. Can the Riders do anything to keep this game close as they welcome the high-flying Lions to Mosaic Stadium?
I did some quiet pontification on this when I first saw the line come out. I said, wow, that's a big spread. I don't know if the Lions can cover that in a tough place to play like Mosaic Stadium. I think I'm going to pick them to cover. And then I realized it's Jake Dolegala, quarterback. And all that flew out the window because there is no way that Jake Dolegala can go against the BC Lions defense and have even an average performance. The Riders are going to be in a rough situation this week at home. I think the Lions are going to run away with this game.
I agree with you. I do not believe in Jake Dolegala. I love the throw that he made late in Touchdown Atlantic, and then when he got more opportunity to play again, after Fine got hurt, I didn't think he was impressive at all. The Lions, I think, are under pressure here to keep pace, or depending on what happens in the Winnipeg game, take first place in the West Division. They can't afford, despite their impressive record, to sit down and be complacent. They're going to pour it on here. I think the Lions win big as well.